Hey everyone, welcome to Sequence of Instructions. Thanks for joining me. In this video we're going to learn a property of JavaScript called hoisting. Now this is not so much something you get to do specifically, but it's more a characteristic of the language itself. And sometimes you can exploit this characteristic, and other times I'd say maybe most times it's best just to be aware that it exists. What is hoisting? Hoisting is basically it's a feature of JavaScript where any variable you declare, that's not how you spell var, any variable you declare is always hoisted. This declaration is always hoisted to the very top of execution. So if I had code that preceded this, right, maybe I have a lot of code that precedes this, and then I declare this variable, the JavaScript interpreter, when JavaScript is running, first it's going to read through your code, decide how it wants to execute it, and then it's going to start execution. But in that interpretation phase, it's going to find all variable declarations, and it's going to hoist them to the top as if you wrote it like this. Okay? So this is basically going to be functionally the same as what I did before. And the way that we can kind of demonstrate this is like so. Let's say I don't have any variable and I just say console.log x. I'm going to get an error. X is not defined. It's never been declared. Not only does it not have a value, it doesn't even exist. There's an error. It can't even process it. If I did this, we know that x equals 5. It'll, right down there, let me clear this. It'll print 5. Everything's okay. If I did this, where I declared it first and then assigned it later, it'll say undefined. So yep, it knows what x is at least, it just doesn't have a value for it, so it's undefined, which is different than being an error, right? So the question is now, well, what if I did this? Right? If we believe that JavaScript executed top to bottom always and only ever respected that position or that order, this x wouldn't exist yet. It only exists down here. But again, because of hoisting, you'll see x is undefined. So again, it treats any variable declaration as if it was like this. Okay? Which mimics the undefined behavior we're familiar with. Okay, so that's variable hoisting, variable hoisting. There's another thing that JavaScript hoists, and that is functions. Alright, so when I say function foo, and we'll just console.log hello, something simple. My foo function, all it does is log hello. Normally, and it's best practice to declare your function and then invoke it. So reading top to bottom, okay, foo is declared. All right, now I can invoke it, and we'll see it says hello. But again, because functions are hoisted to the top the same as variables, we can actually do this. We can call foo even though it hasn't been technically declared yet. You'll see it still prints hello, there's no error. If we try to call a function that doesn't exist, you do get an error. You'll see it's this reference error. The name of the function ast_fastv is not defined, etc. Right? So we know that by virtue of it running, but also that it doesn't throw an error, that it must therefore exist. Alright, there's one small caveat here. I don't know about a caveat. This may be intuitive to some of you. It's not immediately intuitive to me, so I feel the need to cover it. If you declare a function this way, it's hoisted to the top. You can use it at any point in your scope. Remember we covered scopes in a previous video. Any point in the scope, you have access to it because it was declared somewhere in that scope. Alright, there's another way to declare functions that we kind of talked about, which was this way. Alright? And as far as when it comes to invoking the function after declaration, the two seem to be more or less the same. I'll make a bar one that does the same thing, just to really drive this point home. You'll see foo and bar, they do the exact same thing. They both print hello, right? And so it doesn't really matter if you declared it like this or like this in terms of how it can be used after declaration, but if we try to move both of these up, you'll see bar is going to run because it's declared with this function keyword and only the function keyword, but foo is treated like a regular variable. So remember I said it's going to treat it like this, right? And so at this step, foo is undefined, and so we're actually going to get an error trying to invoke this. Let's see. Oops, there it is. Foo is not a function, right? It does exist, so if we do console.log type of foo, and console.log type of bar, type of, you'll see foo is undefined, but bar is a function. Foo is not nothing, right? It doesn't throw an error if you just try and log it. It's just not yet defined as a function because it doesn't get defined until a little bit later. So that's a little bit of that's a caveat to how declaring functions in different ways actually could affect how your program works. But anyway, the point of this video is just to illustrate the concept of hoisting in JavaScript, where variables declared anywhere in a scope get hoisted to the top as if they were declared at top, and functions declared anywhere in a scope, actually the entire function declaration gets hoisted to the top. So the function is accessible at any point in execution in that scope. So that's a neat little characteristic of JavaScript. I'm not aware of any other languages that do that. There probably are some, but just be aware of this behavior when you're coding. Anyway, until next time, take care. Bye.